there are times such as these times when we're in an apartment. We happen to be in a townhome, which is like an apartment, and there's no yard or anything. You don't feel very self-sufficient. We need simple, easy, quick solutions so that we can feel a little bit more prepared than we are.
Frank's up there getting some strawberries for some homemade strawberry jam. Where's our strawberries?
So he looked away and told me the price.
Oh.
And anyway, I can get it at the store any day of the week for that. So you know what your price is. But if you're
Oh wow, they were really overcharging us. These strawberries were $2 each, so they were $4 for both packages. And where we just were the strawberries, they were asking $5 for one of these packages. So there you go. You got to be careful when you're in these countries when you're buying stuff.
There is so much changing almost on a weekly or daily basis now, especially in the go abroad, be abroad category, that I had to make this video, prepping in a foreign apartment. And that sounds like, well, you can't prep in an apartment, but what you can do is, you know, the word prep comes from prepare, and you can prepare. We were homesteaders for over 10 years, and so it's become ingrained in the way we do things and the way we think in order to facilitate, you know, a simple living, stress-free lifestyle. That's why we do it. You know, different people can do it for different reasons, and yet there can be also a common reason why people might want to start thinking about doing some of these things, just because there are so many changes and so many things in the works that could put us in a situation where we wish we would have at least prepared a little bit. And so you can do this in any apartment. I'm going to give you 3 easy things that, based on our experience, are really easy to do and are really workable in an apartment. Now, I'm not going to go crazy and tell you to you know, start gardening in your apartment. You can do those things. This is more like just a super simple, easiest, quickest thing that you can do. How about that? And so one of the things we've noticed is no matter where we've been, like when we were in Panama City, even the city, you know, when we were in Italy, you know, when we were in Ecuador, and all of these places, Bulgaria, all these places we've been, it's super easy. And now if we're just visiting, I have to add this, if we're just visiting, it's going to be a little bit different. You can buy a few more packages of this and that, but when we're in a place that we know we're going to be there, you know, a year, at least minimum 6 months, but more like a year or even longer. So it comes down to food, and one of the most nutritious, and it's not beans either. People always talk about beans and rice, and you can have beans and rice. That sounds like the thing to do, beans and rice, but actually it turns out, well, check this out. From an ancient wisdom place, Abraham and his whole family used to plant and eat lentils. Think about it. Back then, they didn't have these huge stores. I remember even in the 70s in southern Italy, they didn't have supermarkets, ipermercados. They didn't even have them. Before that, it was just small sellers, mom and pop sellers all over the place. So imagine even back in Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's day, they didn't hardly even have that. And so it was just people, an agrarian society, mostly what you produced and maybe what your neighbors produced. And imagine we may end up going to something like that soon. And even if we don't, you can understand that lentils are an amazing food, and they just have nutrition in them that you won't find in like beans and stuff. So you can stock up on lentils, and they're versatile. You can have lentil soup, yes, but you can also make lentil stew, and you can you know, make lentil patties.
Should it have been? It is bread, Al. You know what I mean.
He's making
better kind of bread.
Jalapeno bread to go with our lentil patties tonight. Yeah, we're gonna eat lentil patties tonight.
Do your subscribers like to see cooking videos?
They like to see the food that we eat, yeah. They like to see what we're eating.
Whoa, that's a huge loaf of bread. What the heck happened to it?
Bread rises.
But it, like...
You can grind them up and do things with them. So lentils are an amazing food, and you can stock up on them, and you can a lot of times buy them by the sack, which is pretty amazing. And they tend to be, generally speaking, about the same price, although some places it's going to be cheaper than others, but around 75 cents a pound seems to be about the going rate internationally where we've been, and sometimes they're a little higher than that. Like in Ecuador, the price seemed to fluctuate and go up to $1. That's number one. Number two is tuna, because you may say, well, what about protein? Now here's the amazing thing about tuna. I noticed that you can get a can of tuna in the US depending on what city. I mean, obviously I'm not talking about the most expensive city and the most expensive neighborhood. A lot of times these stores, they know who their clientele is, and they jack the prices up. So I'm talking more of a general level here. And so you may find your prices may vary a little bit depending on where you are. But generally speaking, you can get a can of tuna in the US for $1. And I noticed that you can get a can of tuna in Ecuador. Before we left Ecuador last year, we got like a box full of cans of tuna, and they were about $1 or a little less each. And here in Mexico, it's the same thing. We find that we can get a can of tuna for about $1 or less. Be very careful for the tuna that seems to be super cheap, almost too good to be true. It is. It's got soy in it, so don't buy that. Don't be tempted to get that. So make sure you try the tuna. Get 1 or 2 cans and try it. Make sure you like that brand and it's what you want. You start with lentils. You've got your tuna. So for those that need something meaty and it's canned, it's easy to store. The next thing is going to be rice. I would do a combination of brown and white, just because too much brown rice can interfere with your absorption of minerals and be hard to digest, and I recommend you soak it. Either way, it's a really easy staple to get, and this is called integral, arroz integral. I went to Ecuador when we first got there. I asked for brown rice, and I had a very interesting encounter asking for brown rice instead of white rice. So the word is integral, or whole rice. That's what they call it. One of those things you don't know when you first get somewhere.
You mean you said it in Spanish, brown, the color.
Yeah,
brown.
I translated the word brown and said brown rice, and they all looked at me funny. So, all right, so those are the 3 staples that you can absolutely stock up on. You can buy a little extra every time you go to the store. You don't have to make a big deal. Or if you've got a family, you can get it, boxes of tuna. A lot of times people will even deliver it in Ecuador. So these are 3 things: the lentils, the tuna, and the rice, both whole rice and white rice, that you can easily stock up on. They'll keep in your shelves. You can have a year's worth in the shelves, and they're very reasonably priced, and they form a very strong foundation of staples in your foreign apartment, a place where you won't necessarily be set up, or you more than likely won't be set up like you were, or like you might think about being set up on a homestead, where you would have a lot more tools, like a grinder like we used to have, and all kind of other kitchen implements and this kind of thing. So this is great for any apartment, whether you're still in USA, maybe you live in the city and you're not quite ready to head out to the country, or whatever the reason behind it, or maybe you're abroad already and you're in an apartment. You can do these things. You can stock up, and you don't have to feel like you have to be so dependent and such a victim to circumstances that are beyond your control. And at the very least, it can buy you some time in a pinch. For example, the indigenous in Ecuador right now, as we speak, are like deciding not to go to the market and sell food because they have more important things to go do, such as protect their liberties. We need to do things that are going to help us overcome those spots where there may not be an opportunity to go get food. So eventually they'll go back to selling food because that's what they do. But at least we can be prepared as much as possible, even though we're in an apartment.
So far it's 2 things of strawberries cut up, and now they're going to cook on the stove.
Around 8 to 10 minutes max. I squash them while they're cooking to the consistency I want.
Oh, you put a little bit of water in there.
A little bit, just to not evaporate the moisture of the strawberries themselves. I'm just going to wait for this to start kind of cooking. For those that are observant, this is the European method. When I used to work in really busy touristy restaurants in Europe, they did things like this. They would take the 2 forks and simulate a masher, because this was in the 70s. When I was a waiter in the Swiss Alps, I frequently did things like this with forks and spoons to be able to achieve the end result. I've turned the flame off.
So it's 3 tablespoons of chia seeds and 2 heaping tablespoons of sugar.
Of whole cane.
Yeah, well, we're using whole cane sugar. I don't know if some places they might not sell it. You're just stirring in the chia seed and the sugar.
I'm just making it even so there's not clumps of it or anything. And then I just let it sit here until it actually cools enough to be able to pour it in a jar.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be completely cooled, because obviously you want the chia to expand in the jars.
Looks like it's already thickening up. The chia seeds does that. So it's that easy. That's it.
That's it, and then I just let it sit outside of the fridge until it gets to about room temperature, so that I don't like to put things that are still a bit hot straight in the fridge.
Okay, so they're probably going to get even thicker and thicken up when they cool down more.
Yeah, I just wipe the tops a little bit.
Thanks, Frank, for making the video for us.
You're welcome. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for coming to the channel. Have a wonderful day.